I'm Thomas J. Misuraca, the author of the new dark comedy Figments, opening at Brick House Theater in North Hollywood, produced by Force of Nature Productions. If you want to hear more, watch this video. Why the theater experience is such a unique format for both the actors and the audience is, I mean, it's live. You're there. You're in it. And I mean, I'm not even talking about immersive theater. I'm talking about theater in general is just a wonderful experience because every night is something different. Yes, they're reading from the same scripts, they're walking through the same blocking, but the audience is going to be different. So that energy is going to go back to the actors, and they're going to give something back to you that's wonderful. I mean, live laughter, live gasping, live reactions, just that feel and that energy is like no other art form in the world. I mean, you're not going to get that. Movies might be fun opening night, but still, there's something wonderful when you see people on stage performing for you live in that moment, and it's just wonderful. And I also think that theater allows us to learn a little bit more about other cultures and people, where sometimes that doesn't quite happen in films and TV. I think being there in the immediacy of learning something new is you're going to absorb it a little bit better. An audience is going to absorb it a little bit better than they would just watching something. I like writing dark comedy because I feel that, I mean, you're just able to dig a little deeper into that darkness of the consciousness that we all have, even if we don't want to admit it. I like that idea of having a character say that inappropriate thing that you're really not supposed to say in general company, the thing that makes the women gasp and the monocles pop out of eyes. That's part of it, the type of dialogue, and having characters who are not 100% moral. Doesn't mean they're completely immoral, but they're more questioning things about their lives, and they take actions that might not be, the most positive actions. And I think it leads to more exciting and interesting stories. But then to be able to laugh while this is happening is even more fun. I think there's nothing better to have a very dark moment happen and then follow that by a comedic moment. And the audience at that point wants to laugh, and you'll get the biggest laugh from that. But, I think writing comedy is fun, and you can get a lot of gravitas in comedy, but there's something about dark comedy that you can even go a little bit deeper, as I said, into characters, into the darker side of characters. You don't want to get too dark in a regular comedy. It just won't go well. But I think you can dig deeper into what makes people tick, even the worst of people. But with that nice balance of comedy, it's not as painful as sitting there watching like a very painful drama about something overly serious. I think almost you almost are okay with it being even darker if you're laughing at the same time. Force of Nature was the brainchild of Sebastian Munoz, and Sebastian was one of the chorus members of the musical Geeks that I wrote and produced. And he talked to me like, oh, he's working with other theater companies, and he invited me to work with other theater companies, and he directed the Para-Abnormals after that. And shortly after that, he's like, we're thinking of starting our own theater company. Do you have something we can produce as our first piece? And I said, well, I'm actually working on a play called Demonic Housewives, which is about a community where a bunch of women start worshiping the devil in order to make their community all sparkling, clean, and nice, and all that stuff. And specifically, the reason I wrote that is because I had a lot of female actresses who wanted to be in my plays, and I was writing a lot of male-heavy plays, so I decided that I would write an entire female play. So Sebastian took a chance on it. It was a dark. Not only was it dark humor, it was comedic horror. We'd had such a success with Paranormals that I think he felt that this was a great way for Force of Nature to kick off, because it's something, sort of a familiar vibe for the audience that follows both I and Sebastian. And the rest of the, and a lot of the people who were involved in Paranormals came along, and even Raditha Deason, who was the lead in Geeks, came along as well. So it was sort of like a little blending of families, with Sebastian being the captain of the ship. And it was great working with them because they helped me. It's a newer play. They didn't tell me it had to be this way, but they helped me develop a story and characters that would fit the vision that they wanted to have. As a matter of fact, when we were casting, we had these characters called the old biddies, which were they were originally two older ladies who sort of were the Greek chorus, or the ones who sort of filter the town. They're the ones who were kind of seeing everything going on through in their world. And we were having we literally had it narrowed down to three actresses that we adored and really wanted to work with. And it was probably Sebastian who made the suggestion, could we split the two roles up into three? And he's like, because you have like three actresses here, three actresses, three good guys, three bad guys, and it'd be good to have the three biddies, because it's feels very like, witchcrafty-ish. So yeah, I thought it was a great idea. So it was great to get some feedback from that. And unfortunately, we couldn't extend Demonic Housewives. Being a heavy cast, it was hard to get all the actresses to be available. And that's when Sebastian had the idea to do a rush. And to be honest, I misunderstood. He asked me if I had any, and maybe I misunderstood, but maybe he asked me because I think he felt I was disappointed that we couldn't extend. It happens with theater. But I guess since he had another week, he asked if I had a couple plays I wanted to put up, short plays. And then he started calling out for other people to write plays. So he wanted to be like a 24-hour play festival. And again, I can't even recall if I just said I can't write like that, or he didn't even ask me to write like that. He just wanted to give, two Misuraca pieces and then all these other new pieces. And that's how the rushes began. And that to me seemed like where Force of Nature really started, taking off as a company, and started getting members, and good group of writers, good group of actors. So I guess I could say, like sort of the fifth Beatle. I was there from the birth of it. And just Sebastian and I have always had a good working relationship. He's always been interested in what I'm working on. He's always come out to stage readings that I've done. He's always come out to productions that I've done. Something he sees, he might be like, hey, can we do this with Force of Nature? Or what do you have? Our next season's coming up. So usually when a season comes up, he approaches me and says, do you have anything? Or we're doing a festival of shorts. Do you have anything? So I submit to what he, to the festivals that he gives. And so I can't remember the exact order of things, but I do know he was very interested in doing my short play, No Problem, as a film. So we did film that at one point, and was completed and made the festival circuit as well. And soon after that, I did a lot of his short plays in the Tales from Tomorrow. And then that's when we did. So after that is when we did Masters of the Dark Realm, which is the second full-length production that Force of Nature did of mine. And that's when I was paired with Corey Chappell. And we had a very good working relationship. Sebastian stayed on as producer, and added his vision as well. And the three of us, again, back to the Demonic Housewives, it was that magic. The three is the magic number. The three of us really worked well in getting that put together. So really, really did good. And then shortly after that, they did a night in Tom Shorts where they did an evening of stage readings of my short plays, and with a new original play as well. So we were supposed to go on and do we were supposed to go on and do the ebook of love in 2020, and we were this close to opening day, and then a little pandemic thing happened and kind of threw that all off. Figments was a little bit of a Frankenstein monster of things that I had written before. There's a very small nugget of the very first screenplay that I ever wrote in college, having to do with a woman who was put into a mental institution by her mafia-ish husband, though she wasn't crazy, he just trying to get her out of the way for some reason. I can't even remember what that was. But she inadvertently escapes and ends up in a deserted coastal town in New England and meets a writer. And the gist of the story is the writer's actually crazier than her. So that's sort of the nugget of the, and he's of course got the hots for her, but she doesn't want anything to do with him. I think she was probably the good character, so it was probably nice to him, but more so. So I kind of, that idea was kind of buried in the back of my mind. And then we were talking about dark comedy and digging into the darkness. I don't, as a writer, and as I always swear, I'm not going to write a play about a writer, and I'm always writing plays about writers. So this one kind of kicked off when I was just dabbling in the whole idea of sort of a writer speaking to himself and what he, the whole of, his characters come to life and he's talking to them and the characters don't like what they're doing. And I kind of felt that was all done before. But what I really liked about that was sort of a character digging inside himself with the whole self-doubt. And if that manifested in another person, and without giving too much away of the plot, sometimes, even if we hear people say things to us, that might, people could say, oh, it's great and it's wonderful. A writer may hear, well, they didn't really like it because they just gave me a blanket answer or something like that. So it's a character dealing with, so I wanted to write a character dealing with self-doubts and how they manifest in other people. And if these people who are giving him such negative comments, are they real? Are the people who are giving him positive comments, are they real? Is everyone real? Is anyone real? Is he real? So once I got to the point of, okay, I'm not a mystery writer. I don't like to write mysteries. I can't do, it's the one format that I really just can't do originally enough. But I felt there was a little bit of a mystery here, of, who's real, who's not real, what are people's relationships. And once that started coming and I felt that I could do multiple levels of, well, if you look at it this way, it might be this way. If you look at it sort of like a choose your own adventure, that's what really got the snowball rolling on this one. And that's the end result of, okay, writer in a community, is he going crazy? Is he going sane? And it just came out from there. And that's where we got Figments. The themes of Figments, as I sort of mentioned earlier, is about, I think, being in the creative world. Doesn't even have to be in the creative world. There's someone who has a desire to do something in life and what obstacles they have to face, not only in the world itself, but within themselves and within the people that they care about and trust. It does weigh heavier in the art world because, what do your parents think? Your parents supportive, or do your friends think you're crazy for pursuing this, or do they think you're doing it the wrong way, or do they think there's a better, as a writer, everyone, there's a lot of people who suggest, oh, are you doing everything that you can do to get to the next level? And I think I am, but I don't know. There's no roadmap, and people who aren't in the arts might not understand that. And just even like total strangers, like, sometimes you'll sit down and I'm at the point where I can sit down and tell a total stranger everything I've done. And they think I'm Neil Simon the way that, I can list the stuff off, but I don't feel that way. I just feel like I'm still doing the same things I've been doing for 20 years. So Figments touches upon those themes of choices in life and how a person, how they affect a person and how they affect the person around them, as well as touching upon perhaps your family history, a little hint of is there a sense of mental disorder, in the family, and how you deal if you're confronted with that information, how do you deal with that? You can go in there like, does this character who, yes, not to give much, he's working on his new book, but we come to find out his former book was a failure, but he blames the publisher, the marketing, and all that stuff. And I've been there too. Like, why didn't that succeed? Was it the publisher? Was it the marketing? Was it me? So maybe he does think that his writing is good, but the rest of the world doesn't think it, or or maybe it is good, and this is all in his, all the self-doubt is in his head. So I hope at the end of the day, I wrote a play that you can go in and be like, there is so much later in there. This person may think may be translated as this person's imposter syndrome. I like that more. I think there's a good little nugget of that being a possibility. I mean, I'll start with the director, Corey Chappell. As I said, this is the third time I've worked with her, even though unfortunately the middle one fell through thanks to COVID. What I like about Corey is let's take creativity off the table. She's organized, and that's, to me, unfortunately, I've worked with some directors who don't even read the script until maybe the night before the show and the first rehearsal. And I mean, she really is 125% prepared before she even says, okay, I'm directing this. So she's got a schedule in mind even before we start casting. And she's flexible too. She understands that those things have to change, but it's easier to change something that's already in creation than to be like, oh, we're just going to throw it all together when everyone tells me. But she's very organized. She keeps it together, and then creatively, she does talk to me about my vision, and she takes that into mind, but she doesn't let that condense her. She does further dilate where I'm coming from. And she also allows the actors to dig deeply into the character. I mean, she's especially this one more so than anything, because there is a lot of character work involved in this one. And she really worked hard to help them dig into it. And she wants me to be as involved as much or as little. And again, I don't say lucky for her, because that sounds kind of rude, but I am not the kind of writer who wants to be there 24/7 when we get into the rehearsal process, because I know it is a little intimidating for the directors and the actors if the writer's sitting in the background, like, because you don't know what are they thinking and all that. And if and as writing plays, I have to understand that eventually, you have to let it go. I'm lucky enough that I can be this close. My goal is to have the play, published and available for purchasing and royalties and all that. So I can't be at every production. I can't, micromanage, and I wouldn't want to anyhow. But it is nice to actually sit in the casting room and see what's going on, see who's coming in. And in this case, it was probably, of the plays that I've cast with Force of Nature, one of the easiest and most difficult at the same time. We got a lot of great people who came in, and they all, and maybe it's because the characters, in a sense, have a little bit of fluidity to them, that they could be played multiple ways. There's a mother character. She's not a very nice mother, but she could play as very mean drill sergeant, or she played as sickeningly sweet. And so many people came up and gave great interpretations of it. That when we finally, it's just that magical moment when you finally start narrowing it down, and all the people who show up. And even then, we weren't, we were narrowing it down, and we're like, we have a good list of people, which I guess is a better problem to have than we don't have enough people. But at the end of the day, all the right people really showed up for the piece. David Tucker plays Samuel. He's the main character. He's the one. He basically in every scene. He's the writer. Wrote Cottage on Cape Cod, trying to finish his novel. And David is one of the first people who came to audition. So it's that's the other thing too. It's okay, he showed up, he's really good, but have we not seen anybody else? Do we, are we just letting him, are we putting him in the role because we haven't seen everybody else yet, but he stood the test of everybody else coming in, and he was actually one of those where like he could have played this. There was two, we were casting the two males at the same time. He could have played either, I think. And I think a lot of guys had that flexibility, but he definitely could have played either of the two characters that he was playing. So, but as Samuel, he ended up being fantastic. And the mother character was also a little bit difficult. And Chris Conti came in, and again, supposed to be a really nasty mother, and she played her nasty sweet, which is great. But eventually, she just made that her own. And then Celine Planata, apologize if I mispronounced her name, plays the mysterious girl next door, and again, like, just comes in, and you know exactly that she's walking that line of that beautiful, mysterious woman, maybe a little on the ditzy side, but then maybe really intelligent beyond that as well. So she really played the gambit well. And then Nish Chanduk as the best friend. I mean, this cast just all came together. I mean, he just, he's the one who is supposedly the caring one, wanting to help his friend. And he really, emotes that through his actions. What I want the audience to get out of Figments is a couple of things. First of all, I want them to sort of enjoy a dark comedy, find a few laughs, be a little shocked here and there. Things are going to be like, there's going to be some gasping moments. I want them to enjoy the roller coaster ride of the mystery of what's going on, what's happening to this person, what's real, what's not real. But at the end of the day, I also want them to reflect on the importance of, good care for mental health in this country, of when should cries for help be recognized and answered, and maybe just think a little bit more of what is a person's reality. We're all all of our realities are different, and when you come into somebody's life, how exactly are they translating the world around them? I think the California theater audience should come to Figments for many reasons. One, it's an enjoyable show. They're going to laugh, they're going to gasp, it's going to be a mystery. They're going to, question what's going on. It's going to lead to some great conversations on the way home. And the second more important reason is because theater really needs your help right now. Between COVID and all these, laws of, governing 99-seat theaters and freelancers and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of theaters just cannot put up as many shows as they used to. And, any show right now is a blessing. And these actors are working very hard. A lot of them, this is the first time they've been on stage for a long time. And, and they're just digging deep and working very hard to create characters and to give a performance that an audience is sure to enjoy. And it would just be a shame that this gets missed. Force of Nature is a unique company because they really do nothing but original works. You don't hear them, they're not doing Our Town, which is fine, but they're really giving original plays the audience and the space that they need to get their name out there. And not only are they doing original plays, but they do their rushes, which also encourages other writers to work on new pieces specifically for rushes. And they also, especially during the pandemic, they were working a lot on doing writers' workshops. So getting more more people who want to write to actually do something and have their work be heard. And I know they were doing a playground on Sunday nights and getting new works up on their feet a little bit. So that's all great. And, as actors as well, it's as a repertory company, the actors do get first right to audition or to shows, or, they don't have to come, they can come to callbacks directly. They don't have to go to the first night. So they get, top consideration. And and they also allow you to like move outside of your comfort zone. So if you're a actor who wants to write, they encourage you to write. If you're a writer who wants to direct, they encourage you to direct. As a matter of fact, I have my first real modern acting gig was with Force of Nature in their Halloween program. I think it was 2020 or 2021. And yeah, I mean, it was, I was terrified, but they were very encouraging. And I mean, I think they just kind of said, we want you to do this, which I thought was kind of exciting, that they wanted to take a chance of seeing me do something different. So I thought that was a great opportunity. And since then I actually went on and did a couple of other stage reading things. I don't want to leave my wheelhouse as an actor, as a writer, but it's nice to play as an actor every once in a while. I mean, I know all companies work very hard to make sure those who are involved get to get on stage, get to write. And I'm sure most of them do, but Force of Nature really puts their money where their mouth is. They do a few, they do all, as I said, they do all original shows. They do a few full lengths a year. They do a few. Not only do they do the rushes, which is all original material, they do. They have Tales of Tomorrow and a few other series of one acts. And then it just calls for a nice little group of actors as well. So they've got a lot of good actors that are always on stage, getting their time on stage. Letting them and directors spread their wings a little bit more. And I think it's definitely a place where they welcome newer, older, anybody who wants to get involved with theater. They're very warm and welcoming. Force of Nature is a force of nature. I mean, look how much they do with the very little budget that they have. Could you imagine if they got, got great donations and more people coming out to support everything they do, because everything that they do goes back into the show. That for Figments, granted, these are all actors who haven't worked with Force of Nature before, but already they're talking about working on the next rush. So it's almost like everything they bring in, they give back. So if more comes in, grants, donations, anything, just, any helping hand, it's going to go right back into the art community. And that, we need that. You could just imagine, like, if more people heard of Force of Nature, and wanted, to get involved even more so, then you get more people being able to bring their art to life. And it is already, but it could even be a bigger, well-oiled machine where it just, takes in the art and love and gives it back 100 times fold. I'm Thomas J. Misuraca, the author of the new dark comedy Figments, opening at Brick House Theater in North Hollywood, produced by Force of Nature Productions. Get your tickets now.